Welcome back to the Sharing English podcast, where we explore stories from the English-speaking world, spoken slowly and clearly for curious English learners like you. Let's get started. Hello, I'm your host Freya, an English teacher from Michigan, now living in Denmark. Today, we're exploring something close to my heart, the Native American names of states, cities, and places around the U.S. Names that carry deep stories, legends, and histories. Place names aren't just labels. They're living memory. In the U.S., many names come from Native American languages like Ojibwe, Navajo, Dakota, and Choctaw. These words tell us about the land and the people who have been there for thousands of years. Let's start with Michigan, where I'm originally from. Michigan comes from the Anishinaabe word Michigami, meaning large water or big lake. It refers to Lake Michigan itself. Nearby, Sleeping Bear Dunes, which are large sandy hills on the banks of northern Lake Michigan, come with an emotional story from the Chippewa or Ojibwe tribe. I'm going to tell you a version of that story as published by the National Parks Service, which oversees Sleeping Bear Dunes. Once, long ago, in the land called Wisconsin, across the Great Lake, there was terrible hunger and many people died. A bear and two little cubs were trying to leave that place and come around the lake where there would be more food. They walked for many days on the beach together, but after a while, the two little cubs began to whimper with hunger. And so the big bear decided to swim across the rest of the lake. They waded into the water, one cub on each side of the bear, and they swam off into the lake a long way. After a while, the cubs began to get very tired, and so the bear said, "Try hard, the land is not very far." And very soon they did come in sight of land. But gradually the cubs got weaker, and only 10 miles away, one cub sank into the water. Soon after, the other also drowned. The bear's heart was broken, but she could do nothing. She waded ashore and lay down, looking out on the water where her cubs had died. Eventually, both of them came to the surface as two little islands, and so the bear still lies there atop the dunes, looking after her children. That's a beautiful story for a beautiful place. Next is Mackinac Island, one of my absolute favorite places in Michigan, whose name comes from the Ojibwe word often spelled Michilimackinac, meaning great turtle. Early people thought the island looked like a giant turtle. Legend says it was once home to a tribe that hid in caves after an attack, so their name was given to the island. Here are a few more well-known names with native roots. Minnesota. This comes from the Dakota Sioux word Minnesota, meaning clouds reflecting off the waters. Here, waters refer to the Minnesota River and that land's many lakes. Another word, Dakota, from the states North and South Dakota, along with the native tribe. This comes from the Sioux word meaning friend or ally. Chicago, from the Algonquin word Chicago, meaning onion river. And Milwaukee, from the Ojibwe Minwaking, meaning good land or gathering place by the water. These names reflect features of the land, rivers, lakes, animals, all concepts that are important to Native American cultures. Native peoples, like the Ojibwe, Chippewa, Dakota, and Cherokee, lived with the land for thousands of years. They named rivers, lakes, and mountains. But when European settlers arrived, they often learned some names, and they also replaced others as they established their own towns and map systems. In Michigan, for example, treaties like the Treaty of Washington, signed in 1836, forced many Native American communities off their ancestral land. But ever since, they've fought to keep hunting, fishing, and gathering rights. Today, there's still a growing effort to recover these original names and honor their significance. These place names are reminders of a very long, rich history, one that predates European arrival. They reflect geography, like the names Large Lake or Clouds Reflected in the Water. They reflect stories, like the Sleeping Bear or the Great Turtle. And they reflect heritage and memory that connect modern America back to its earliest residents. Keeping and learning these names helps us connect to culture and history that many Americans never learn in school. I'm curious, have you ever visited a place in the United States with a Native American name? What do you think that name tells us about the land and the people who named it? Share your thoughts with me. Thank you for listening to the Sharing English podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you'd subscribe, leave a rating or review, and share the podcast with a friend who's also learning English. You can find out more about me and the podcast at our website, www.sharing-english.com. New episodes of the Sharing English podcast are available weekly wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, let me know, what topics are you interested in hearing more about? Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep sharing English.